I've taken the Osprey Downburst 36 through rain in the Netherlands, storms in Sweden and proper Icelandic weather. And while it does some things really well, there's one thing about it that drove me absolutely nuts. Enjoy the video. Hi everybody, welcome back. And for those of you who just tuned into my channel for the very first time, I'm Gijs and I'm a Dutch outdoor gear nutter. Today we are taking a proper in-depth look at the Osprey Downburst 36. A 36 liter backpack that's designed for shorter backpacking trips, hut-to-hut hikes and most importantly for wet and unpredictable conditions. Now, this pack makes a pretty bold promise. It claims to offer genuine waterproof performance without relying on a rain cover. And if you spend any time hiking in places like the Netherlands, Sweden or Iceland, you know that's not a small claim. So, over the past couple of years, my dearest and I have been using this pack and that one, my wife's, in exactly those kind of conditions. A lot of rain, a lot of wind and sometimes temperatures that makes materials behave very differently than you expect. Now in this video I'm going to walk you through everything. The materials, the carrying system, the way it fits, how it performs in real world use and of course also the things that worked out really well and the things that didn't. Because as always, no product is perfect. Let's start with the materials, because that really tells you what kind of backpack you are dealing with here. The Downburst 36 is made from a 100% recycled 210 denier nylon, which is then coated with a TPU laminate, and on the bottom you get a tougher 420 denier fabric for added durability. Now what that means in practice is that this is not a lightweight delicate backpack. It feels quite robust in your hands. The fabric has a certain stiffness to it, almost a slightly rubbery feel because of that TPU layer. And that immediately gives you confidence that it can handle rough conditions. At the same time though, it's not overbuilt to the point where it becomes extensively heavy. Osprey clearly tried to find a balance here between durability, weather protection and usability. And for the most part, they've done a pretty good job. But, and this is something well worth coming back to later, that same material choice also introduces one of the biggest downside of this pack for me and also my dearest. Looking at the size and weight, this is a 36 liter pack with dimensions of 65 by 35 by 32 centimeters when it's folded out, of course. On my scale it came in at 1581 grams, which is very close to the Osprey's claimed 1530 grams, so no surprises here. Now for a backpack with this level of weather protection, that weight is actually quite reasonable. It's not ultralight by any means, but it is also not something that feels overly heavy when you're carrying it over longer distances. So again, you can see that balance between durability and usability coming back here. Now let's talk about comfort, because that's where a backpack really proves itself, especially once you start putting some weight into it. Now, the Downburst 36 uses Osprey's AirSpeed carrying system, which means you've got this suspended mesh panel sitting against your back, while the main body of the pack sits slightly away from it, so there is some space in between. The gap between that mesh and the pack allows air to flow, and in theory that should help reduce sweating when you're hiking. In practice it does work, you still get warm of course, but compared to a pack that sits directly against your back, there's definitely an improvement in ventilation. Now the system is supported by a 4mm metal wire frame that goes all around the back basically, and that gives structure and stability. And what I really noticed during testing is that the pack stays nicely in place. The weight remains close to your body, which gives you a secure feeling, especially on more technical terrain or uneven trails. Another thing I really appreciated is that the mesh itself doesn't absorb water. So even in heavy rain, it doesn't become this soggy. And because it stays dry, it doesn't add weight as well. Now, when it comes to fit, the Downburst is a one-size-fits-all backpack, but it does offer quite a bit of adjustability. You can adjust the torso length using a ladder system with 5 steps over about 10 centimeters, which gives you a range from 44 to 54 centimeters. Adjusting the backpack is pretty simple. You've got the notches, just release these clips, take them out, and then you can move basically the whole shoulder construction up and down, and then what you do is you insert them again in your back length that you measured. And if you don't know how to do that, watch the video that I did on my YouTube channel, of course. And that's all that it takes to get it in. In practice, that adjustment is easy to use, and it allowed both me and my dearest to get a good fit, even though we are not particularly tall. The hip belt is also adjustable, ranging from 77 up to 130 centimeters, which is quite generous. Now, the shoulder straps, they are ergonomically shaped and fairly wide, so they spread the load nicely across your shoulders. There is this nice mesh, and there is also a lot of perforations going on just to improve ventilation. The EVA foam padding, it feels supportive without being too soft or too rigid. Now, one thing that I need to say here is that I've noticed no difference between the fit of the shoulder straps or the cut of the shoulder straps in the male version or to the female version. Because if you look at this one, which is my wife's, then you will see that the shoulder straps are actually the same. They've got the same curvature. And normally, the women's one has got a little bit more shape that's a little bit more curved to the inside to fit the body of a woman a bit better, but this is just not the case. It's just probably a smaller backpack. Both the shoulder straps feature load lifters, and they're really important if you want to have a comfortable hike. And if you want to know more about load lifters, then watch the video that I did on my YouTube channel. It's a tutorial. I'll put the link below in the description. In the middle of them, there is this carrying handle. Use this one if you lift your backpack from the ground, because this is the strongest part. Your shoulder straps are not made for lifting a backpack. The load lifters, they are effective and easy to adjust, and the chest strap, which includes a safety whistle, stays in place well once you've set it in. For the waistband, the same story, also mesh and foam that is perforated, so you get a lot of airflow going through and it doesn't get too sweaty. Also this opening here, it's for comfort when you're hiking. And I really like the forward pull adjustment system because it makes tightening the belt while you're moving very, very easy. Overall, even when the pack is fully loaded, it feels stable, balanced and secure. And that's something that stood out consistently during testing. Now, in terms of storage, and now we'll have to turn it the other way around again, the layout is very straightforward, but also quite practical and unpractical in the same time. You've got one main compartment which holds about 36 liters, a second compartment that sits close to your back, and a third open compartment on the back of your pack. Now, on top of that, there are 2 zippered pockets on the hip belt and bottle pockets on both sides. So from an organizational point of view, it's simple, but it gives you enough options to separate your gear. And as always with this kind of pack, how you use those compartments really depends on how you pack and what kind of trip you're doing. Now let's start with the waterproof main compartment, because that's really the core feature of the Downburst 36. It is a top loader with a roll top closure, combined with a waterproof zipper. And most importantly, it is fully waterproof with an IPX5 rating. And that's quite different from most so-called water-resistant backpacks, which rely on coatings or rain covers. Now let's talk about the biggest downside of this pack, and that's the material on the inside of the main compartment. Now let me try to show you this from a different perspective. Open up the zipper and then you'll see my stuff. My emergency in orange, winter gloves, the gas cartridge in the middle, very safe. My jet oil, proven to be gold to me. My partisan down jacket that I've been reviewing lately. And then there's the box with a lot of basically food and everything that I need to survive a couple of days. And you will see that in the bottom part, or here at the back, there's this mesh storage pocket with a zipper. It's good for your passport, maybe your wallet. Of course there's a keychain holder in there, which is absolutely nice. And I'm not going to take out what's in the bottom part, which is basically my clothing for a couple of days. And underneath that there's my sleeping bag. Because getting it in, because of where you see the material, this is really, really resilient. Now what you can also see now is that this is the main compartment as my wife and I used to use it. But as you can also see that if I open the zipper here now on the other part, let's say the secondary compartment, you will see here the bladder with the bladder retention hook. It's an Osprey bladder in this case, of course. The hose that goes through this side, and you can pull it also on this side. So if you're left or right-handed, it doesn't really matter. But you will see that this, basically this space, it's just a separation layer. So if you put stuff in here, it goes this side, what gets less. If you put stuff in this side, the other side gets less in volume. So it's just a choice. And if you want to have your stuff really waterproof, packed like we do, then the main compartment is the compartment that we use. And now let me get my stuff back in there. And of course this is not ideal because this is rubbery as well, but it really takes some force to do this. Then that one on top. And why do I keep my jet ball on top? Well, basically because I need it a lot of times when I'm having a break. Emergency stuff, also clothes, and some gloves. And then it's a matter of zipping it up together, getting some air out, and tying it down again. And for the flexible storage pocket on the back, it's almost the same story. Now the material, it is so not flexible that if you want to get stuff in or out, it's really difficult. And let me take something out and then I'll show you that behind there is this sort of inner envelopey thingy. And that makes it even harder if stuff is underneath it to get it out. Over to the bottle pockets on the sides. I use them not only for bottles, but also to store tent poles, tripods, and of course bottles and thermoses. But also here's some remarks about the flexibility and usability. Now in this case, I've got the bottle from the top part in here, and this material, it is sort of flexible, but not too much. And it is quite a hassle to get your bottle in or out. And when you're walking, when it's from the top in here, it's impossible to do that. Now if we switch it to the other side, then I'll show you a different way of carrying your drinks. That is like this. It's like a pistol holster grip. That's at least how I like to call it. Because when you're hiking, you can take it up in this way, and that is absolutely easy. Again, it is still not that flexible. Now, there are a few smaller features that are worth mentioning. The stow on the go trekking pole system works really well, especially with more compact poles, and I also use it for a little tripod together with my DJI action camera. And then there is the trekking pole loop. In theory it's a nice feature, but in practice it's not always stable. I actually lost a trekking pole in Sweden because the bungee, that cord there, didn't hold as securely as I expected. And with bigger poles it's absolutely horrible, and with the smaller poles they just fall out. Now that said, when hiking the Cairngorms in Scotland, the loop proved to be fine for storing a ice pickle or ice axe. And finally, the pack doesn't stand upright on its own, and that's why I'm holding it and why it's leaning to a tree. And that is because of the frame design. It balances on two small points, which means it tends to fall over when you put it down. It's not a deal breaker, but definitely something you notice over time. Now, we've used this backpack in heavy rain multiple times, and the main compartment stayed completely dry. There's no need for a rain cover, no worrying about water getting in, it just does what it's supposed to do. So how does all of this come together in real life? Well, over the past couple of years we've used the Downburst in the Netherlands and Sweden, and especially in Iceland, or should I say on Iceland, which is probably one of the best places to test something like this. And in terms of weather protection, we really have no complaints. The main compartment stayed dry every single time, and what I personally liked is that we never had to use a rain cover. And there's no water pooling, no wind catching a loose cover, everything just feels more streamlined. Of course, the downside is that other compartments are not fully waterproof, so you still need to pack smart, especially for things that absolutely need to stay dry. Comfort-wise, the pack performs well up to about 15 kilograms. It remains stable, it fits nicely, and even over longer days it doesn't become uncomfortable. The dual access bottle pockets are also very practical. You can reach your bottle while you're walking, which is something I always appreciate. The sternum strap with the integrated whistle is a simple but useful safety feature. When it comes to sustainability, I always look at durability first. And after 2 years of use, this pack still looks very good. The materials show very little wear, which means it's built to last. On top of that, it uses recycled materials and a PFAS-free DWR treatment, durable water repellent, which is definitely a step in the right direction. And that DWR coating is there to prevent water or moisture sticking to the fabric and bead off quite easily, so that the pack doesn't get wet by itself and it doesn't get more heavy. And now I think it's time to head on to my verdict. How do I rate the Osprey Downburst 36? The Osprey Downburst 36 is a well thought out backpack with excellent weather protection, solid comfort and impressive durability. The waterproof main compartment really delivers, and the carrying system performs well in a wide range of conditions. But it's not perfect. The stiff, grippy material makes packing frustrating from time to time, especially in colder weather, and some of the smaller features could be improved, like the pole attachment system. And at a price of around 325 euros, it's definitely on the expensive side. So overall, I rate the Downburst 36 at 7.5 points out of 10 total. All in all, it's a very capable backpack, especially if waterproofing is your top priority, but one that comes with a few compromises. If you found this review useful, then hit the like button and please subscribe, and also leave a comment, because I love getting comments. And if you want to see more gear put to the test, I've got a couple of videos you might like. Check out my Partisan down jacket review that will keep you warm in wintertime, and my clean canteen bottle review to see how gear holds up after years of real world use. Both videos are packed with hands-on insights just like this one. See you in the next one. Enjoy the outdoors and stay safe. Ciao, ciao!